Big Influence is a podcast where we have discussions with our favorite influencers and find out who they really are when the red light isn't on. Don't forget to check the link tree in the description to find out where you can watch and listen. Welcome into episode 1 of Big Influence. Today I have Emma from Once Upon a Quest. She is both a YouTuber and Let's Player, and she is a friend of mine from the Republic of Ireland. Is that it? Is it still a Republic? Okay.
Yep.
I went to school in Texas. And welcome in. How's your afternoon going?
Thanks for having me. It's good. It's good. I was reading earlier today. I've been reading lots of books recently, which has been nice. So I've been kind of avoiding going on my phone and reading stuff, which has been great to get back into because I was really terrible at just going on my phone and wasting hours on TikTok or YouTube or something. And then it was 7 hours of screen time a day. And I was like, oh my God, I need to stop doing that.
Oh, yeah, phone addiction is a big problem for us because you kind of have to be, but at the same time, it's not the healthiest thing. So what have you been reading? Are you more of a nonfiction person, or do you like to immerse yourself in a world or something?
Mostly fantasy. Yeah, I say mostly fantasy, some historical fiction, and yeah, so what am I reading recently? Brandon Sanderson I was reading recently, the Mistborn trilogy. So I've read 2 out of the 3 books of that, and that's really, really good. And then I just finished a book called Daisy Jones and the Six, which is now, I think, a TV show on Amazon Prime. And it's basically a fake documentary style. So it's kind of written like an interview, and it's like a fake band from the 70s. And it's kind of about the rise and fall of them, but it's just written in such a great way. It's so easy to read. And if you like any of that kind of era of rock and roll, and if you like rock and roll documentaries or anything like that, that's basically what this book is, told from all the different kind of points of view. And it's just really easy to read, and it was really good. I just finished it today. I think I started it yesterday and I read so quick. So I'm looking forward to watching the TV show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check into that. So one thing I like to do at the beginning of each episode, even though this is literally episode 1, I like to start off with some icebreaker questions. So let's start off with number 1.
Yes.
One thing we can all relate on, we all have to eat something. However, if you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Burgers and chips.
Burgers and chips. Oh, okay.
No,
that's
so
a
boring.
Very American answer, though.
I know.
Yeah, I'm from Texas, so I could totally relate. And I'd probably go for sushi, but burgers would be in the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, it's just what I always default to. It's what I always crave. I'm always like, oh, I'd love a burger. And then anytime we get takeaway, or pretty much anytime we get takeaway, it's like burgers and chips.
Okay, so is there a chain, an international chain you go to, or is there a local place? Do you have without doxing yourself, is there a hotspot you go to?
Well, there's a few good places to go, and then there's also an Irish chain that's called Supermax. Time to plug Supermax, which is it's big in Ireland, and I think McDonald's were trying to block them from opening up in Europe and everything, because they were like, no, you can't, McDonald's doesn't like anybody else who has Mac in the name, I guess, and they wanted to stop them from.
And then they expanded into Ireland. Okay.
But Supermax is big here. So McDonald's is big here as well. And then you'd find McDonald's everywhere, but I think you'd find Supermax pretty much everywhere too. And that's my preferred. They do a really good chicken breast burger.
Oh,
garlic cheese chips, fries for everyone else. Garlic cheese fries, very tasty.
So an Irish burger, does it Irish made, Irish company, Irish chefs, etc. Is it typically different than the American kind, or do they find a way to supersede us on the quality?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer Supermax, but it's very it's such a subjective thing, People always have their favorite, I like the burgers from this place, or I like the chips from this place, or whatever. But I don't know. For me, I prefer Supermax. The chicken burger is good quality, and it's a nice actual thick chicken breast that's in it, with southern fried breadcrumb on it, I guess. Whereas when I go to McDonald's, I feel like I just want something that's a dirty, cheap burger that's just really bad for you, but really tasty. even though Supermax is not any better for you, but for some reason when I go to McDonald's afterwards, I always feel like a bit grossed with myself.
Yeah, think about McDonald's. It's very good for the price, but I always feel terrible afterward. I have to try to
Yeah.
avoid it.
Yeah. And then it's just whatever it is about it, it's so addictive. Like you whatever it's a generic McDonald's flavor that it doesn't really matter what you're eating because it's just that generic McDonald's flavor that you're like all of a sudden you're like, I want that again. What is it? You know, it makes you crave more,
Oh,
even though you're
absolutely.
disgusted with yourself for just having eaten it.
Yeah. All right. So, since you have a gaming focus on your channel, what is your earliest video game memory as far as you actually having a hands on a controller or a keyboard and playing?
Yeah. Like pretty young. I don't know how old I was exactly, but I'm gonna say maybe 3 or 4, I think. And we
Okay.
had so yeah, so my dad and my brother were more into gaming. They were more capable of gaming than me because I was only small at that point, but I was still like watching them play and then like trying to play myself. And we had I think it was the Sega Master System
Love
2
that system.
from when I was Googling around. I was trying to figure out which one I had because it came with Alex Kidd installed in it, like built in.
Was it red and black or did it have a trap door up top?
I can't remember. It was
Okay.
black and then there was cartridges that you stuck in the top. But like
Okay.
this is hard for me to actually remember, but I was so
Actually,
small.
just until recently had a master system. If it had a little trap door to open, that was a two. The two was RF only. I actually had one imported because I didn't realize that RF in the UK does not work in America.
Mm.
Lesson learned, $90 mistake. If it's like a red
Oh
and
no.
black one that's like oblong, that's the Model 1.
Yeah, I can't remember. I was too
Gotcha.
small.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we had, and I think, see, that's the thing. I was like trying to Google this and figure out which one we must have had because we definitely don't have them at home anymore. They probably got given away at some point because I was asking, I was like, is it in the shed somewhere or like, in the attic? But I think they got given away or something years ago. But I don't know if we had the Sega Genesis as well because that has a different name.
It's a Mega Drive in the PAL
What is
region.
it? Mega Drive, yeah. So which one would it be for me? Genesis or Mega Drive? Mega Drive, I think.
It would be Mega Drive for you. It was only
Yeah.
Genesis in North America, I think.
Yeah. So I don't know if maybe we had that one as well. I don't remember. But I remember the games more so than the console. So I remember like Echo the Dolphin was a
Oh,
very
that's a
early
good one.
memory. Yeah, it was so fun because for me, like as a kid, all I did was pretend to be an animal all the time. I was like running around pretending to be a cat, like drinking milk out of a bowl on the floor, like or I was running around jumping over stuff, making horse noises or whatever. So I was like delighted to be swimming around as a dolphin in a video game. It was great.
Then you realize that game is terrifying. It is a cozy
Yeah,
experience for about 5 minutes, and then it just gets progressively more scary. So,
yeah,
Echo the Dolphin is your earliest?
I think so.
That's a
I think
complicated
that's
game to start on.
yeah. Well, so my dad and my brother were playing it properly because I wasn't really able to, but I would just play in the starter zone where there was no sharks and no jellyfish and no anything. I would just swim around and like jump and do stuff.
Yeah, my son takes the same approach. We played it on my Sega Mini, and when the tornado would show up, he would just say, "Okay, start it over." I'm like, "Okay, fine, whatever."
Yeah. Like it was just that's the thing about when you're so young and you're a kid, I think you're not really focused on the quests or the objectives. You're just like, whoa, I'm in this crazy other world and like what can I do? And like, oh, this is cool. And then you latch on to like the most simplest thing in the game that you think is really fun. Like when me, it was just swimming around as a dolphin. Like I wasn't even doing anything. I wasn't progressing or anything. And like that was mind blowing to me. I was like, wow.
So you were not upon a quest at that point.
No.
That was a pun. I'm so sorry.
I definitely wasn't. I was upon just experiencing. I think your imagination is so amazing when you're so small because like you're just totally transported by whatever you're in, if it's a game or something you're watching, nothing else exists around you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So after that, sometime after that, years later, you decided to start a YouTube channel. Now, since I'll be talking mostly to YouTubers and things like that, it does lead to the question: when did you first decide to? What led to that decision to start? Was it COVID boredom? Like, what led to you being like a public person, putting yourself out there on YouTube as opposed to just a viewer?
Yeah, I've thought about this before, and I think because for me, I'm actually quite shy, and like so I was kind of surprised myself by doing this, but I was watching Let's Plays and stuff like that already and thinking like, oh, that looks like so much fun. Like they look like they're having a great time. And gaming is already a hobby for me. And I think I wanted to have something to do going into the winter time. So it was kind of towards the end of all the COVID madness. It was because it was January 2022. So it wasn't really born in the midst of lockdown and that kind of thing. It was a bit after the fact. So I know a lot of people started doing this kind of stuff in 2020 and when they had a lot more time all of a sudden and it was lockdown and stuff. But then I kind of came along a little bit late after the COVID lockdown stuff happened. And I just wanted to give myself something to focus on going into December, January, which for me, I always get very down in January, especially. January just sucks. I don't know. Sorry, January. Sorry for anyone who's born in January. But like for me, it's always just a month where I don't know, it's always just in Ireland that it's cold, it's dark, there's nothing really happening. And yeah, so I kind of wanted to give myself something to focus on. And as well, I think at this point in my life, I'm a little bit more confident in myself, to do something like this and not worry too much about what other people are going to think or anything. A little bit more confident. I'm still very, very insecure.
Yeah, because I remember when I first found your channel, I think because we started at around the same time.
Mm,
And I remember I was scrolling through your videos. I think you had been at it you were still working on Greedfall at the time, which was your first game that you did a playthrough of. And I remember I was just like doing a hard scroll. I was like, oh, my router must be out because I can't find her older videos. And it turns out that you actually started with Greedfall. And I was kind of
yeah.
shocked that someone who was brand new to YouTube, because I think you told me offline you had never done a YouTube channel before. And I was asking, like, how do you make your videos look so good straight out the gate? Because this isn't about me, but like my early videos were not the best looking things. So, and you mentioned you had a background in TV work. So, without doxing yourself, like, tell me about that.
So I'd never started a YouTube channel before. So that was all 100% new to me. I'd never recorded gameplay before. It was my first time using OBS to capture gameplay and using capture card and all that kind of stuff. Figure out settings. That was all new to me. That was the difficult part. Yeah, I have a background in videography or freelance camera work. And so I had a lot of the gear already. So I had like microphone and camera. I had a good camera already. And a lot of this stuff. So I had a kind of head start in terms of the technical side of things. So I kind of knew how to set up lighting and sound and camera and all that kind of thing. So that's kind of why it probably gives off that impression, but like that's my background. So like yeah, I do freelance video work for kind of like corporate video mostly.
Oh, okay. And also, a quick side note, Emma and I did a test interview yesterday. And for those watching the video version, either on YouTube or Spotify, that thing in the background is not a heavy curtain. That is foam. she,
Yeah, it looks like a curtain though, doesn't it?
yeah, I thought you just said, like, it's like I said before we went live or hit record, like, that looks like, I thought you had a heavy curtain over a window. Like, you didn't want the sunlight messing with your lighting, but
Nope. It's just a big panel of foam and I've got like two right beside me on this wall, and I've got like two panels in front of me, and then I've got some on the ceiling above me, and then some on the other walls, and then I've got bass traps as well, which helps a lot with the sound. But
Now,
yeah, that was something I kind of had to like learn about. I was on doing deep dives on YouTube, looking up acoustic foam, like where to place it, what's effective, what's not effective, and like reflections and all this kind of stuff. It was very exciting.
so for those who are unaware, myself being one of them, what is a bass trap? Like it just traps the bass noises that you make when you speak? Is that what that is? Or
Yeah, so the bass traps are like basically they're big kind of triangles of foam that go into the corners. And then so I've got two, so one in this
oh,
corner right above me and one in the other corner. And yeah, it's basically the those frequencies just tend to travel and gets to trap in corners, so the foam is there to absorb them so that it's not bouncing back. And then the middle frequencies, I think, are kind of more like what this stuff on the walls are dealing with. So they're absorbing all the other kind of frequencies, but those lower frequencies, for some reason, travel into corners, and that's why bass traps go in the corners.
okay. Well, that's you learn something new every day.
But that is secondhand knowledge coming from me, like because I'm no expert, but that's like what I gleaned from researching it myself. So yeah, it's interesting. Sound is there's a whole lot going on there with sound. Sound is a whole another ball game to try and figure out
Very much
like
so.
compression and noise suppression and oh my gosh, so much stuff. Frequencies and hertz and decibels, and is hertz even to do with sound? I don't think so. Is it? Maybe.
I don't know. I just do decibel adjustments in DaVinci when I edit. I just recently learned about Audacity. I knew what it was, but I didn't really pay attention to the tutorials. And for the trailer to this, I decided to use it to cancel out background noise. And I was like, oh my God, I have been doing this for over a year. And yeah, watch tutorials, kids.
Yeah. There's so much you could learn just like in one watching like one video on, you know, how to do compression or background noise suppression. Like you'll learn so much on YouTube for free. It's great.
You mentioned before that you were a fan of Let's Play videos.
Yes.
Who would you say like is your top 2 or 3 favorites as far as that goes? And is there like a certain genre of game, or is it more based on the person?
I think a bit of both. So what happens to me is I will normally go and search if I'm playing a game or if I finish a game, I'll go on YouTube and look for other people playing that game. And then that's kind of how I got onto the channels that I really love. So Mars is one of them, and lightweight gaming was another big one. And I just loved, and then you just fall in love with the person then that's behind those channels. So you kind of go there for maybe, I think, you know, say for example, you're looking for someone who's playing Red Dead 2 or The Last of Us or whatever it is, and then you find someone playing that game, and if you've just played it yourself, you're kind of like, oh, I wonder how they reacted to this part, and like da, da, da. And yeah, so I kind of do that, and then that'll lead me to a channel, and then I'll see what other stuff they have, and then I'll just stay for the personality, but also if they have the same interesting games as me, then I'll watch games that I've played before mostly, because I don't want to watch games that I haven't played because I'm avoiding spoilers if I might play them.
Prior to having your gaming channel, whenever you were strictly a viewer, who was your favorite YouTuber? And it doesn't have to be a gaming YouTuber.
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, probably going back to when I was in college, it was around the time where Jenna Marbles was massive.
Oh
So
God,
Jenna
yes.
Marbles was like huge influence on me. Like I just loved her silly comedy, and yeah, just yeah, definitely that. And that was kind of back. So I suppose what was that, like 2010 kind of era around then. So yeah, YouTube was kind of new-ish, like YouTubers and
It came out of
watching.
beta in '06, so it was still pretty new at that point.
Yeah, it was pretty new. Like, you know, at that time, I remember when someone was showing me some parody video on YouTube called Shoes. Do you know that one? Oh my God,
Yes.
Shoes. That one. And that
Yeah.
was like, honestly, I think that was my first experience of like a viral YouTube video,
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think.
I remember back then, if a video got 5 million views in a week, people lose their minds. Like when Susan Boyle sang, and I was like, this thing got 7 million
Yeah.
views in a week. Now it's,
Yeah.
you can knock out 7 million in a day if you're a big channel or if you do something
Yeah.
really dumb on the internet. As far as your YouTube journey goes, because you've been at it for 14 months, if I'm not mistaken, what is
Yeah.
one part of your YouTube journey you didn't expect? Was there, like, whether it be good, bad, and different, like, what is something about your YouTube journey now that you would not have anticipated in January of 2021? 22. 22.
Yeah. I think just like finding so many like welcoming, like-minded people through Twitter and stuff like that, and YouTube and stuff like that. Like people, other creators are so open and like enthusiastic and welcoming, and like so finding this kind of little social circle for me is new because I never really did that before on Twitter and things like that, you know. But like now it's kind of cool to have started this and then be talking to other people who started their channels or have started their channels ages ago, and like have this kind of cool supportive network. Like that was a new experience for me and I wasn't really expecting that. On the scary internet, I was more expecting like scary things and like horrible comments and like mean people. But and I know that's out there too, but for me it's been like a really positive experience, and I think that probably just surprised me because I was probably a little bit scared when I started out that I was going to get eaten alive
I'll
by the
admit,
world.
there are some mean people out there, but maybe it's because my channel isn't huge, but like the people are nicer than I expected. I will admit that.
Yeah. And it's just so nice because I think that there's such a kind of camaraderie there. Like, you know, it's not like competitiveness. It's all like building each other up, which I thought was refreshing and lovely. Oh, can I say one other thing that surprised me?
Oh, absolutely.
I wasn't expecting, well, I didn't know how it would go, but I was definitely surprised kind of that I was able to get emotional and actually cry recording some gameplay, because I can do that on my own when I'm playing, but I was like a little bit worried that like if you're recording it, you're aware that you're recording yourself. And then I was a little bit like, oh, what if I'm not able to cry and I'm not enjoying it properly? So I was like pleasantly surprised when I was able to actually get comfortable enough that I could feel the emotions and like be sad and cry on YouTube, which I never thought I would do. If you told me you're going to film yourself crying and put it up on YouTube publicly, I'd be like, no, I'm not ever going to do that.
So whenever you had that moment where you allowed yourself, where you were able to be vulnerable in a video, did
Yeah.
you have to give yourself a pep talk prior to uploading it, or were you just comfortable with it at that
Oh,
point?
prior to uploading it. No, I don't think. No, not after the fact. It was more like recording. I haven't cried that much. I haven't cried that much yet. But like the times I did cry, I found myself being very like aware of like, oh my God, I'm crying. Oh no. And like in my head, I was crying like pure sobbing. But watching it back, I was like crying like very, you know, subtly. It was like a lot more subtle. And in my head, I was like a snot monster. But when I watched it back, I was like, okay, it's not as bad as it is in your head. And then record like, or sorry, uploading it, then I didn't really think about it anymore. But it was more like at the time when you start to cry and you're going like, oh God, oh, I'm such a mess. But then it's not as bad as I think it is in your head. And like, and just to remember that like people enjoy seeing the real emotions coming through. So like if you are really reacting to something genuinely and authentically and you're crying, like it doesn't matter if you got snot running down your face or anything. It doesn't matter, like, because people who are watching that are gonna connect to that, I think. And especially if they've experienced the game, they're probably, you know, maybe a lot of them are there watching because they've played it too and they want to come and see your reaction to it. And then if they were really sad playing it, then they're watching you and they kind of want to see if you're getting sad playing it. And because that's how I kind of feel when I watch other people playing stuff. I'm like, I felt really emotional during this part. how do they feel, and then I'll watch, so people will connect to the genuine snot and tears, I think.
All right, now you mentioned before that you don't typically deal with a lot of mean people, but whenever you do get those comments, how do you personally choose to handle them? Do you antagonize? Do you delete? Do you block? Like, how do you go about that? Because it's something we're all going to have
um
to deal with eventually.
yeah, I haven't had that many so far, luckily, thankfully. I really haven't had. I mean, I'm struggling to even think of like outright mean comments. Like there's been weird comments, but nothing that's outright mean. And so anything that's a bit weird, I will probably just, if it's on YouTube, I'll just like hide the user from channel feature, which is great. If you don't know about that feature,
Oh,
anybody,
yes. And
it's
for
a
those
great
unaware,
feature.
that's the YouTube version of a Twitch ban, if you want to think of it that way. They can view. Unfortunately, you can't block them that way, but they can't interact further.
Yeah, and then but they also don't know that they've been blocked or hidden. So they can come onto your YouTube video and comment all of this mean stuff, and they don't even know that no one can see it anymore because you've just hidden them. It's great. So they're just
Yes.
like effectively screaming into the void,
Basically a shadow
which I
ban.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so I really haven't had that many bad experiences so far. Whenever I do get a strange comment, I suppose I definitely don't antagonize. I would rather just like and move on if it's not like too bad, or if it's like a bad one, I'll just hide the user from the channel. But like it really hasn't happened that much. And I know that it's probably gonna happen more, the more you grow and the longer you're on YouTube, you're gonna get more weird stuff happening. But yeah, so far nothing too bad, really. Yeah. I really don't have any good examples because I can't really think of any actual mean comments or anything.
Well, that's a good problem to
Like
have.
no one's commented and been like, you're shit and you're ugly and you're not funny and your personality is poop. Like that hasn't happened yet. And if that does happen, it's probably easy to be like, oh yeah, I won't care about it and I won't take it personally. But I think it's a lot harder to do that in reality.
Okay. And one other thing I was wondering about, I've been meaning to ask you this for a while, and I haven't gotten around to it. I noticed, because right now you're what, about 500 or so subs? Do you happen to have the number on hand?
At the moment, I think at 540.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And one thing, because like you and I, we would both qualify as small channels, I guess, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Which for those wondering, I do not consider that an insult. It's just a descriptor. But
Yeah, I don't find that an insult either. I find it really weird when people get weird about that.
yeah, I don't do that ego bullshit. But it is what it is. But one thing I noticed you're really good at, I do notice you do have, considering your channel size, you do have a strong community. I feel like there are like repeat viewers, repeat commenters. Was there anything you proactively did on your side to make that happen, or was it organic?
I think just replying to all the comments, any comment you get, just reply is always a good thing to do because then you're opening up more of a conversation. And then like if people are coming back to view more videos, then um, if you've replied to their comment before, then they're probably more likely to comment again. Yeah, so it's nice to see, and it's different I think with each playthrough because not everyone is into every game that I play. So like there might be some person who's like really into Vampire, who's like really not into, Until Dawn or Uncharted 2 or whatever. So you might not see them commenting on those videos, but they might jump on a different playthrough then if they're interested in that. And like that's fine too. I'm always like, oh hey, it's you again. But what did I do? I suppose just yeah, I guess social media helps as well, like being active on Twitter or Instagram definitely helps to kind of meet new people and get your name out there a little bit. But really, I think it's more like I used to think it was so much more important to share everything on Twitter and Instagram, like with the YouTube channel. And now I feel like I don't even really need to share the link to my episodes anymore because the people that are watching them are there on YouTube, and like if they're going to watch it, they're already there. They're the Twitter links or the Instagram links are only very minimal, I think, compared to that, which is nice that at this stage I'm like, oh, that's cool to know that, you know, people who are going to watch it will watch it. They're on YouTube already. But yeah, just I suppose engaging with people, replying to their comments, being nice, and yeah, does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And also, I'm like you. Like I used to post everything on Twitter. It didn't really make a difference, so I just stopped. One question I do have: if you were to go back to January of 2022,
Yeah,
day one of your channel, right before you hit record, is there
yeah.
anything, whether it be for the early videos or just in general, is there anything you would do different if you can go back and start it over?
Um, would I go back and change anything? Well, like only things like technical things. Like my first episode of Greedfall, I didn't have the right settings for recording it, so it's very um I think the bit rate was too low and it was a bit laggy and stuff like that. So I'd be like, go back and put these settings. But that's only a small thing. But yeah, if I go back and look at that first video, I'm just what strikes me is how um self-conscious I was. Like I was so, and I could really tell in myself, like the way I'm talking and the way I'm definitely thinking, I'm very aware that I'm recording myself and I've never done this before. So I'm like, I'm talking out loud, but I'm not comfortable in that yet. So it's kind of a bit just like, just relax. But also, what can you do? You can't really change that if it's your first video or whatever, you're going to be
It was
nervous
superb
and
for a
stuff.
first video, though. I will say that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Also, I would probably like now my editing has changed a bit more where I'm a bit more ruthless in cutting stuff out. So yeah, but that I think that comes with yourself, comes with time and experience, like what you can leave in and what you can cut out. So my early episodes were very there was probably a lot that was a bit boring that I could have cut out, where I'm just like looking at inventory screens and menus and going like, oh, where am I going now? Whereas now I would just like cut a lot of that out unless it's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I know this podcast isn't about me, but I know when I first started, I was kind of the opposite. I was like, no one's going to watch a long video from a small YouTuber. I have to hatchet job this. And there would be like games that are legitimately about 45 minutes. And every little like moment of silence, every time it was quiet, even if it was story important, I would hack it out. Like there were games that should have been 45 minutes long and I cut it down to 15. And then I was
Oh
wondering why
wow.
nobody was retaining because they couldn't keep up. But yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and also on
Yeah.
bitrate, I followed
Interesting.
one YouTube tutorial. And
Yeah.
I think you can agree with me on this. For those listening, if you're doing YouTube tutorials, don't just watch one. Watch several and see what they have in common. My
Yeah.
bitrate was 20,000 for 1080p. That's like the low end of 4K. And like I kept wondering, like, wow, I went up to 1440p a few times and it looks so good. Like I don't understand. It's because the bitrate was so high. But whenever I would process the video, it would diminish my quality because it's taking a 20,000 bitrate video and dropping it to 5.
Mhm.
But yeah, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, I mean, and that was one of the trickiest things for me to understand and figure out was what were the settings. Because yeah, like that, you watch different YouTube tutorials or different advice, and it's different. And then it's different because it depends on the hardware that you're recording on, and
Yes.
like yeah, there's kind of a lot going on, and you just have to you have to kind of just try and fail yourself and figure it out. But yeah, that was I definitely struggled with that, like that, not even struggled with it, but I underestimated the amount of research and testing and figuring stuff out on the technical side that I would have to do. I definitely underestimated that, you know but I mean, yeah, you learn by doing. But that's interesting what you're saying about how you over edited. You
Oh
thought you
yes.
over edited like
I was a
the
hatchet
early
murderer back
videos.
then. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like now I suppose your attitude is more like people will stay for the vibes and just
Well, there's that, and also I'm better at talking while I play.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Because before I would just spend the whole time being like, I have to think of something to say, otherwise it's just going to be silence. Now there's still some moments where I clip here and there, which is normal, but I'm just learning to be more comfortable talking to no one, if that makes sense. Because you're talking to a wall when you're recording,
Yeah.
which that was more. it was harder to get out of that comfort zone than I expected of actually having to talk to literally nobody when I record.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how that was for you. It seemed, I mean, you're better now than you were. I mean, we all are once you get repeat. But like again, I watched that video and I was like, why is this not refreshing the feed? There was nothing earlier. That was the thing.
Mhm.
And I remember when I asked you about that, I was like, oh, I bet she's had a few channels because I know some people that have done that. Like I have a friend that had one a decade ago, then he came back, and that's why his videos look so good. But no. So judging by what you're saying, I'm guessing in your day job it's strictly camera, but there's no back end editing or anything in your day job, correct? Or at least not at the time.
Yeah, I do some editing,
Okay.
but it's not my favorite thing. Like I like to be behind the camera. That's mostly what I do, but like yeah, I can edit and I do editing, but I'm not the best. I'm not the fastest, and I can't say that I love it really. um, but yeah, no, I do some of that too. But yeah, mostly camera work. Yeah. But yeah, like YouTube, I think it's just getting comfortable talking to no one, and maybe in the early videos, you're more aware that you don't know maybe who you're talking to yet, because I think
There
when
is
you've
that as
got a
well.
few videos out there, you start to see the same people maybe commenting, or stuff like that, or and then you kind of have them in mind when you're talking through something, and just I think you just get more comfortable with it as you go, you know.
Yeah, I mean, repetition, that's how you learn. I mean, mostly. It's just some of us take to it better than others. I think you took to it very well very early.
Thank you. I think being a little bit, so I'm 32, and I think that if I was doing this 10 years ago, it would be completely different. Well, I wouldn't have done it 10 years ago. So there you go. But I think just being a little bit older and having a little bit more who gives a fuck kind of attitude helps as well. Because I'm like, I'm having fun, and like I'm enjoying this, and someone out there will, some people won't. That's fine,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 35 and I'm the same way. I do regret not doing it earlier just because there were not a lot of gaming channels out there. Because I remember when YouTube first started, there were people that had a camcorder, like a 360p camcorder, pointing it at a TV, and they were getting 100,000 views a video just because there was no. Like capture cards, like IGN had one and stuff like that, but like it wasn't really common and no one really cared. They're just like, oh, there's video games being played. But
Yeah.
I can't go back, but I can take life lessons I've learned since and apply it to what I do. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's why that's such a great example of like why, for people starting out, like you don't have to have loads of fancy gear and equipment and be great at it. Like people are interested, that they'll watch, if you're doing something interesting, that they're gonna watch it. Doesn't matter if you're filming on, an old camera or your phone or anything like that, or
Yeah.
you know.
It's my thing is, I do believe gear does matter to a point, but it's better to work with what you have than just not do it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like eventually you can like upgrade stuff as you go, but like starting out, I don't think that should be a deterrent.
Oh, yeah. Like if that's all you
Yeah.
have, then just work with that and then just save up. Because experience is the best teacher, and that's less dependent on gear.
Yeah.
Although I will say, whenever someone with 20 million subscribers sits there with a ring light, a fill light, a key light, a DSLR camera, and says gear doesn't matter, I'm like, okay, well then sell all that stuff and use your cell phone then if it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
But yes, I do agree. Like it's better to work with what you have if that's all you have.
Yeah. Yeah, and like as because I had a lot of this stuff I already owned and I already used for work, and like even the foam on the walls and stuff was already there before I decided I was making a YouTube channel and stuff like that. Because I liked to kind of think I was dabbling into maybe doing some voice recording here and there, or stuff like that. So
And for those who are not watching the video version, which is available on YouTube and Spotify, by the way, that microphone you have looks so fancy. You want to plug that brand real quick?
this
And also,
is I shouldn't be touching it.
yeah, also I'm hearing you through Zoom, so you don't have the OBS settings, but you still sound just as good as you do in your videos. So, I mean, I'm sure the
Yeah,
foam has a lot to do with it, but that
it
mic,
has it helps some. Yeah, so this microphone is the Rode NT USB. A USB microphone. Oh,
sinner.
I know. But it's great, and it definitely took me a while to figure out how to make it sound good because it is all in the sound processing I do afterwards. So when I record in OBS, I have some filters on there, like I have compression and I have noise suppression and I've a hard limiter so I don't clip and stuff like that. And then when I go to when I go to edit my videos, I will do sound editing through well, I use Adobe because I have the suite. I've had the suite and used it for work and everything for years. So I use Adobe Audition to edit, and then I'll go in and I'll do more compression and more background removal of any noise and stuff, and EQ. And this was like learning. This was like going onto YouTube and learning all about EQ and compression and how sound works, and then applying it to my own voice and just figuring out what frequencies were complement my voice, so like what to take out and what to bump and everything like that. So when I was happy with that, then I could apply that to my sound editing, and then that's really what makes this sound a lot better, because like out of the box this is super super sensitive and will pick up absolutely everything. So it
Okay.
took me a while to figure out how to set the levels, like what worked best on my computer. So I'm recording this into this computer at about like 80, I think it's like set to 84% input level. Because if you set it to this 100, it would be way too loud. I'd be picking up loads of stuff.
Okay.
But like all of that was a learning experience for me as well, figuring all that out and like learning all this stuff, just deep dives on YouTube, figuring out all this kind of stuff to get it to sound good. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got started out with a cell phone mic, then I worked up to a Fifine, and now I have this Blue Yeti Nano thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my sound issues are based on the lack of foam, just because it's not an option with these types of walls. But you live and you learn. I mean, it was a cell phone mic, and for the first 3 videos, I was actually using the mic on my phone and didn't realize it because I had my phone as my webcam. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which also, side note, that's a great option if you don't have a webcam. So,
yeah.
So, Emma, I don't know if you're familiar with Inside the Actor Studio. Is that a thing in Ireland?
Yes, I've definitely seen a couple of episodes of that at some point. Yeah.
Well, one question that James Lipton always asks his guests: what is your favorite swear word? And why?
It's a bad one. It's a really bad one.
I mean,
it's
on YouTube, it's going to get bleeped anyway. I mean, if it's like that bad. And also, they just recently relaxed their F word policy. So if it involves that.
Yeah. But my favorite one is one that I really say when I'm really raging, and will never make it onto my YouTube channel. But it's a word that like a lot of people are like, oh my God, I hate that word. Can I say it?
Go ahead.
You're afraid. You're like, oh no.
I think I know what word it is because it's very popular in Europe, not so much in America. Does it rhyme with runt?
Yes.
Okay. That is the one word that YouTube is always no-go on, so...
Yeah. But that's what comes out when I'm really fucking angry. That's what comes out. Can I say it? See, do you know what I mean? Like, if I was you'd be like,
YouTube,
yeah, whatever.
I have to bleep it because that's the one thing where they're always like, that's a word you can't say. But
yeah, I know. I don't expect this to be.
If you want to say it, I'll bleep it.
Because then the people at home will never know what I say. So my favorite swear word is, but you'll never know because it was bleeped out just now. And to juice it up a bit more, you fucking cunt. But that's going to be beeped out, so you'll never know what my favorite swear word is.
Exactly, and there will be a black bar in your mouth in the video, and it's... Actually, I don't want to go explicit on the podcast because I don't know how that affects discoverability, so even on the audio version, that will be the one bleep y'all get.
This is the clean version, okay? My favorite swear word is... What do you mean, swear word? What is the swear word? It's sugar.
So without saying the word again, like, apparently that's not a big deal where you're from. Like, not just Ireland, but like basically all of Western Europe, they just kind of throw that word around, and Australia. So is it strictly an anger thing for you? Because apparently in some parts of the world, it can be a term of endearment, sort of like motherfucker or whatever.
No, like, definitely not a term of endearment here. No, but it doesn't have the same kind of like some people have a real visceral reaction to that word. Like some people are like, I can't believe you just said that word, but like here it's pretty common swear word, but like you wouldn't go. I mean, if someone called you that to your face, you would be pretty upset and angry. I don't think you would be like laughing it off. You'd be like, okay, they're really mad at me. They really mean it. I'm offended. Like if someone called you, oh, you motherfucker, you wouldn't like, unless they were saying it in a real angry way, I suppose.
It's a
I
matter of
suppose it
tone.
depends. It's all about the delivery. But like if I was talking to my friends, I might, and they did something like, or whatever, if they did something annoying or whatever, and you say in a joking way, like, oh, you motherfucker or whatever. But like you wouldn't, I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, yeah, that word,
Okay.
because that it's a little bit more like, ooh, you really mean it or something. I don't know. But that's why it's such a satisfying swear word. That's why I picked it as my favorite one, because when I get road rage or anything like that, it's just a satisfying word to say. And
Okay. See,
it's got that blunt kind of what's the word, like onomatopoeic, kind of a blunt sound to it. That's just, there's something satisfying about saying, ah, yeah. I'm not saying it though.
oh yeah, yeah. So, it's weird. Maybe it's because Americans are conditioned to believe this, but when it comes to most like Western European accents, Irish, all the various UK accents, apparently there's various Ireland accents too, or even French. Like we tend to take it as something very prim and proper, and I guess. Going back to when I first saw your Great Fall videos, I was like, you didn't seem like the type that would just throw that around. But I guess,
Oh, what was I saying? Fuck.
well, yeah, but like even then, like, it was very like restrained. It was like, oh
Oh.
fuck, it's not like just. But
Yeah, that was probably more like, oh, I don't want to come across really angry on YouTube. I don't want to show people my true inner gamer rage that's there, because
also, once you
it's
hit
frightening.
partner, apparently that's the one word that will never be allowed, no matter what, even if you say it once. So that's my understanding. Like
Yeah,
it's
well,
that word's
good to
side by
know.
side with hate speech terms, where it's like we're never going to let that in.
Why though?
Well,
It's
I mean, as
just,
far as like if that word slips by, we're going to take away your monetization, like that type of thing.
yeah. I mean, it's just like based on a body part. It's kind of like saying someone's a dick. It's not
Yeah,
that
like to me,
different.
that's what the equivalent. But here in America, that is don't say that.
Yeah,
Also,
we
most
don't
people who
like,
say it in
yeah.
America say it with like a sexist overtone. Like they wouldn't call a guy that, if that makes sense. If they're the type that uses
Oh,
that term.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah. So
For
there's
me,
that
like
too.
I knew, so I suppose when I was a teenager, I probably learned what it meant, but I was like definitely knew the swear word as a swear word before I knew like what it meant. It was the same with like I remember being a kid and being like bastard. I like you'd say bastard, and that was like a real bad word if you're a kid, you're like bastard. But I remember like finding out what bastard actually meant, and I was like, oh, that's weird.
Well,
I
would it
just
be
thought it was like something you called somebody. Like it's
at the
mean.
risk of stepping in shit? Is it possibly like the Catholic influence in Ireland? Like the idea would be like, oh, your parents weren't married, and that's like the deep insult to them. Like, would that be the reason why it's so poorly received? I guess, or was it just more prudish in that time?
The word bastard?
Yeah, as far as like,
Oh
yeah.
no, so I just mean like as a kid, as in like being like 8 years old and not knowing what it meant,
Oh,
but being
you
like,
thought it was bad. I thought you meant like the
no, no,
culture in
no,
general. Okay.
no, just like me as an 8-year-old kid being like, oh, bastard's a bold word. But then like you find out what it actually means. And I think I remember asking like my friend's mom, like, what does that actually mean? And then she explained to us like what a bastard was. And we were just like, oh, huh, that's weird. Like just, to us it was just like a swear word. But then you find out like the real meanings of swear words and you're always like, oh, huh, okay. Never thought it had a meaning before, but yeah,
I first
it
became
does.
aware of the word that cannot be said again. There was a movie made before I was even born called Porky's. Have you ever heard of Porky's?
Porkies, no.
It's a very not aged well movie for a variety of reasons. Think of it as like a precursor to American Pie, if you want to think of it that way, as far as like that genre goes,
Okay.
where it's like high libido teenagers saying and doing a lot of things you can't say now. But there was a prank they did where they called a bar and they said, I need to talk to my friend Mike. They said, what's Mike's last name? And they said, his last name is Hunt, Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
And when you say that name, it sounds like something else. And I was like, I don't get the joke, Dad, because my dad let me
Mm.
watch it. I was like 12. I shouldn't have watched that. And He said, "Oh, that," and he explained what it was, just like the basic dictionary definition of it. It's not in the dictionary, but you know what I mean. I was like, "Oh, is that why is that word so funny?" He's like, "I don't know, son. Just people don't like it when you say it, so people laugh when you do." I'm like, "Okay." So,
Yeah.
and I'll admit though, like if there's a Western European accent on that word, I don't get bothered at all. But when someone who sounds like me says it, it does send a shudder through my body. I'll One thing I
Yeah,
noticed,
but
I
that's
was
what I mean. It
blushing.
has that effect on people. Yeah. Sorry, you were saying you were blushing.
Oh yeah, like I was looking at myself when you're like, "What?" Like just say the word. Like you were trying to you were giving me like the prelude to like you saying it. You're like, "Oh, I'm going to say
Yeah.
it." And like I was like, "Why am I so red?" Because
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
just
because in Ireland, like it's fine. It's just a swear word. Nobody cares. But I know that other people would maybe find it like more offensive. And that's why I was like, it's like, can I say it? Because I didn't know like how you would react if I just said
as
it. You
far
might
as
be like,
as
get
long
off
as
my
it's not.
podcast.
I know you wouldn't say this, but as long as it's not like hate speech, say what you want, and I could bleep if I
No.
have to. So,
Yeah. No. It's
which
just
I will for sure.
can we just clarify because this will be beeped out. It's not hate speech.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Just to
It was just a
clarify,
bad swear word.
YouTube has the same policy toward that word as they do hate speech, meaning like if that word slips by, you will never be able to monetize that video. That's what I meant by that, just to be clear.
Yeah. Just in case anyone listening to this is like, oh my God, what did she say?
Although, and again, we're recording this on March 8th, so things will probably change before this goes up. But Moist
Mhm.
Critical put out a video talking about it. They have relaxed their policy on the word fuck.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter today about something within the first 7 seconds, and then
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know, fuck is okay, but not too many fucks. You
yeah, after
can't.
7 seconds,
Yeah.
you can say fuck, but not repetitively. C word, still out. Always will be. But well, before it was the first 15 seconds, and all swear words were the same. So if you said damn or motherfucker, they were judged the same way. And
Yeah.
it was automatic demonetize. And I
Yeah,
can't
because
monetize, but I know with the captions, they can detect swear words, and I suspect they suppress people that use it a lot. Unless they bring in a lot of ad revenue. Not naming anyone. But,
yeah, because to me, like even shit isn't really that bad a word. If I was saying shit in a video game, I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm swearing. Oh dear.
I mean, it means the same thing as the
But
word
like if
poop.
I'm saying fuck, I'm kind of thinking, oh, I might have to edit that out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am too. I mean, I think the attitude toward most swear words is kind of antiquated. Like, who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I
You
said, who
can't
gives a
say
crap?
that.
YouTube will be fine with that from here to the end of time. But I say a word that means
Yeah.
the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
know.
swearing is like seasoning on your words. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to throw some
Yeah.
pepper on that thing.
I like that seasoning. And sometimes it just nothing else will do. Like it really only comes out if I have road rage, cooking rage, gaming rage. Yeah, like usually when I'm raging or getting angry, it's at inanimate objects. So cooking, driving, or yeah, well, inanimate objects, bad drivers, they're real people, but nobody's hearing me shouting at them from inside my car, so it's fine.
I don't think I've ever heard you shout. You get a little loud in Shadow of the Colossus, but I don't think I've ever heard you just like really go for it.
No, I'll cut that stuff out if I
Oh,
do. If I lose my temper properly, I cut it out because it's awful. Nobody wants to see that, and it's kind of like sometimes you just need to have a little vent and then go back to what you're doing.
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's not great.
Did you drop the C word in that turtle in Shadow of the Colossus?
Probably,
Probably.
yeah,
Okay. Like, so you don't
probably.
even notice it at this point. Like, I might have. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like if I'm really frustrated and I am getting angry with something, then I might go off on a little 10 or 20 second little rant with lots of swearing. And like that's never going to make it in. I'm never going to include that because like even I don't want to see that. Like if I'm editing that back, I'm like, ooh, ooh, look how angry I got. Ooh, my God, what's wrong with me? But it happens. I lose my temper sometimes. Yeah.
I'll
And
admit.
cooking, I hate cooking. I'll lose my temper cooking too.
I will
It's
admit when I
fine.
asked that question, it was going to be a little throwaway before we ended, but I learned some shit about you today.
Oh God. Oh no. That's scary.
And before we wrap up, is it okay for me to include all that?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to bleep, obviously, because I don't want YouTube throwing the hammer on episode 1, but at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bleep all that stuff. You can leave it in. It's fine. I look nice from the outside, but I get really ragey sometimes playing video games, and that's fine.
That's
Hopefully
okay.
you'll never see it.
Well, I must say, I really did enjoy this conversation. That does it all for episode 1 of Big Influence. Emma, thank you so much. Where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube, and that's kind of it for now. So I'm at Once Upon a Quest on everything except for Twitter, where I'm just at Upon a Quest.
Thank you all for checking out this episode of Big Influence. Be sure to check out Emma at the links below. And thank you so much for watching and or listening. Have a good one.